I was, I think, just turned 20 or 19, and it was 1955, which means I'm going to be eligible for Medicare this year. Now, would Vern Gagne admit that? There's a question there. The fact that my father was a professional wrestler, and I had lost my scholarship in school because I had 2 knee injuries and 2 knee operations, I had to take and finish college. And so he says, well, come back home and you can start wrestling and you'll make some money there, and, which I did. About the time I finished up with college, I found myself saying, gee, I'm making as good a money as some young executive would make. And plus I enjoyed the freedom that I had, and I enjoyed the whole atmosphere of what wrestling had provided me. A fellow by the name of Jerry Christie, his 2 uncles had wrestled, he had wrestled, and he had probably 3 or 4 years experience, and match wound up in a draw, 20-minute time limit. I think the butterflies probably had me more tired than the actual match itself. He was like then what he is like today. Extremely glib, one of the fastest minds in the world. It's just so quick. Someone wants to verbally joust with him, you're dead. In the water. He can cut you down, and he can cut you down in about 5 different categories. The last one is triple X rated. The first one will be just passively able to be said in the church, and anywhere in between. And he is that quick. He's that quick as far as spotting things in the ring. He'd yell something out if we had a tag match or even a single match. He'd say, move right or move left or do this, do that. And we trusted him to the point that I would just move right. And sure enough, wherever I moved, that was a spot to be in, and I was in a much better position. Ray Stevens, to me, was probably even a better wrestler than I was. Now, people say, well, how can you say that? You were the singles world champion, and he never attained that. But Ray was such a natural talent. He would daydream and do all the right things. He would be making gaga eyes at a girl in the 4th row, and still was right on the money, right on the spot, on the dime. And I was more mechanical, and I was a thinking person. I didn't have his natural talent, so to speak. I had good talent, there's no question, because I accomplished what I did. But he was so good. But he didn't concentrate. And my concentration and his lack of concentration is what I think made me attain the singles championship where he didn't. He wanted to go party. He wanted to go get on a motorcycle. He wanted to go ride horses. He wanted his Western gear. And all those things were just great, And Bobby, with the 3 of us, we were dynamite. We were really dynamite. I don't say that in the braggadocious tone today, but I would have then very easily. Very, very difficult when you had to face Ray Stevens, Nick Bockwinkel, and Bobby Heenan was the manager, that was as formidable a threesome as you were ever going to get yourself involved. Biggest child in the world. A heart so big, all he wanted to do was, I'd say, Ray, why don't you go down there and find out about this? Well, I don't know how to get there. I'm not real sure about this or that. But if I said, Ray, there's a country western store that's got all these great guns, and he'd find out the most intricate way, if he had to get there. And he'd find it. And I'd go, Raymond? I says, don't do that. He says, you know these things. He says, if it doesn't interest you, he doesn't have anything to do with it. If it interests him, you talk about somebody living, a cat having 9 lives, and they had 10. That's all it was. He was the biggest boy. Anybody who knew him well. And there was an expression about this and a fighter and a wild bull rider, and Raymond was. He lived it all. He played every day as hard as he could. He wrestled as hard as he could. He had a favorite expression, especially when things were going wrong. He would say, Nicholas, we better do something, even if it's wrong. And a lot of times, he made that expression to me an awful lot of times, too. You mean that all the sycophant, recalcitrant, 8-to-5, cretinous humanoid lifers all of these idiots who booed me, how dare they? When in actuality, I was the one element of intelligence that they had to listen to. Whereas, you know what? They're going to mumble, moan, and groan in a bar? I mean, dictionary, they probably thought it was some kind of a funny newspaper or something. I'm sorry. I took the attitude that I did because basically Mr. Stevens and myself and Mr. Heenan, frankly, Scarlett, we didn't give a damn. There are those who get on the tube and who just, they want to be loved. One would not think that a mature individual with muscles and confidence would get here in front of this camera and feel they need the love and affection that you fans have out there to give them. One day they might grow up and say, the hell with you. I don't need you. I don't care about you. I don't want you. That was the simplest thing in the world to do. Our ego was such, we didn't, I mean, it really is a sign of maturity. To me, those who were, so to speak, loved by the fans all the time, I guess my question to them is, really that insecure that long, huh? I mean, you know, your thumb's no longer calloused from sucking it, and whether that was the Vern Gagne's, the Greg Gagne's, the Jim Brunzels, or whomever they were, you know, the humble pie whole routine, it didn't fit for Mr. Heenan, it didn't fit for Mr. Bockwinkel, it didn't fit for Mr. Stevens. Nick Bockwinkel today is living in Las Vegas. He's been in the financial services, which is insurance and investments and securities, for the past 10 years. And I've enjoyed that in the sense that somebody says, what do you sell, Bockwinkel? And I say, peace of mind. Nick Bockwinkel, for fun, plays golf as best he can, which means he thrashes himself to death in the 90s, thrilled to death when he gets into the 80s, just gets disgusted when he goes over 100, and yet the other day I just needed to par one of the last two holes to have a 79, and I didn't make it.
Legends of the 80s.